Okay, so picture this. You're trekking through the Amazon rainforest.
Oh, wow.
It's humid, right?
Yeah.
You see a flash of red fur, and it's a southern Amazon red squirrel.
Haha.
It's just perched up on a branch, nibbling on a nut.
Nice.
And you accidentally step on a twig and startle it,
Oh,
and it lets out this sharp call.
right.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is it calling out just to, like, warn you,
Mm-hmm.
or is it sending a message to other squirrels nearby?
Interesting.
That is what we're diving into today.
Awesome.
We've got excerpts from a 2010 study by Perry Eason.
Okay.
It's published in a journal called MAM.
Bam!
And it looks at alarm calls in these squirrels
Okay.
and what they might tell us about why animals risk making a sound when danger's around.
Yeah, it's a puzzle, isn't it?
It is.
Why draw attention to yourself when you're trying to avoid becoming someone's lunch?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are the main theories out there about why animals sound the alarm?
Well, there are two big ones. The first is that alarm calls are actually aimed at the predator itself.
Oh.
Like the squirrel is saying, hey, I see you. Not worth the effort. I'm way too quick.
So it's a deterrent, like almost like a bluff.
Right. This theory suggests it could either deter pursuit or signal that the prey is alert and difficult to catch.
Okay.
The second theory focuses on communication within the same species.
Okay.
An alarm call could warn others,
Right.
confuse the predator, or even help coordinate a group escape.
That makes me think of meerkats.
Yeah,
I'll like pop it up and sounding the alarm when a hawk flies over.
totally.
So how did Eason figure out which theory might apply to these Amazonian squirrels?
So Eason's study was designed to see if there was a difference in behavior between solitary squirrels and those in groups.
Gotcha.
The study took place at the Cocha Cashu Biological Station
Oh,
in Manu National Park, Peru.
okay.
An incredible area for biodiversity.
So they were really in the thick of it,
Oh, yeah.
out there in the Amazon,
Yeah.
deep in the jungle.
Eason approached squirrels at a set pace,
Okay.
observed their reactions, and noted whether they were alone or in a group.
So it's all about comparing how they acted when they were by themselves versus with their buddies.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And the results were striking.
oh,
Solitary squirrels hardly ever call.
Really?
In fact, they were experts at stealth,
wow.
quietly disappearing into the undergrowth.
Smart move if you're trying to avoid being noticed.
Yeah,
What about the squirrels in groups? Were they chattier?
much chattier. The squirrels in groups always called when Eason approached.
Oh,
And not just a little chirp.
Uh-huh.
They used two distinct calls. A loud, whining sneeze
sneeze.
and short, snorting barks.
What's interesting is that the paper mentions how these calls might signal different levels of urgency
Oh, really?
or even types of threats.
Hmm.
Imagine being Eason trying to interpret what those different calls meant.
I can only imagine.
Wow.
And it wasn't just about the sounds they made. The
Mm.
group dynamic was fascinating.
Yeah.
The first squirrel to spot Eason would sound the alarm, often scrambling up to a higher vantage point to get a better view.
Like a little lookout,
Yeah,
making sure everybody was aware of the potential danger.
exactly.
So they weren't just making noise, they were acting strategically.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then other squirrels in the group would join in, sometimes calling all at once.
Wow.
And instead of scattering in all directions,
Yeah.
they retreated together.
Together.
Often with the initial callers staying put the longest to keep an eye on things.
Oh, wow.
This coordinated retreat suggests a level of cooperation that isn't usually associated with a species generally considered solitary.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly they seem to shift into this group mode when faced with a potential threat.
Right.
The fact that they called when in a group but stayed silent when alone
Right.
really points towards those calls being more about communicating with each other.
Yeah, I think so.
Fascinating. Yeah, it really challenges the idea of them being purely solitary creatures,
It does.
doesn't it?
Yeah, and it opens up a whole new set of questions.
Like what?
Why would a species generally considered solitary
Right.
suddenly become so chatty and cooperative when a threat appears?
Yeah, it's almost as if they have a social switch.
Yeah,
They can flip on and off
right.
depending on the situation.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
The southern Amazon red squirrel is what we call a facultatively social species,
Okay.
meaning they can switch between solitary and social living depending on the circumstances.
Interesting.
And that flexibility is a key adaptation,
Right?
especially in a dynamic environment like the Amazon rainforest.
What kind of circumstances might make them more likely to team up?
Well, one possibility is food.
Okay.
If resources are abundant and concentrated in a particular area,
Right.
it might make sense for squirrels to temporarily join forces, to exploit those resources more efficiently.
Right?
But that also makes them more visible to predators. Hence the need for coordinated vigilance and alarm calling.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
They might get more nuts by foraging together,
Right.
but they also increase their risk of becoming a predator snack.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the ability to switch into social mode with alarm calls and group retreats
Uh-huh.
could be a crucial survival advantage in those situations.
Yeah.
It's not just about survival of the fittest.
Right.
It's about survival of the most adaptable.
That adaptability is incredible.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other factors might influence their social behavior.
One area Eason's study didn't fully explore is the role of kinship.
Oh, okay.
Do these squirrels preferentially call to warn relatives?
Right.
Or is it any squirrel within earshot?
Yeah.
Are they more likely to cooperate with kin?
That would be fascinating to investigate.
Yeah.
Imagine mapping out their family trees and social networks,
Right.
seeing if there are patterns in who they call to and who they retreat with.
Yeah.
Do certain individuals always take on the lookout role, becoming the group's designated sentinel?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if those temporary alliances could lead to stronger bonds down the line.
Oh, interesting.
Could a squirrel that bravely sounded the alarm be more likely to receive help from a fellow group member in the future?
Right. It's like they're building a reputation for being reliable,
Yeah.
even in those brief encounters.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the complexity of social dynamics,
It does.
even in species we typically think of as solitary.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
The southern Amazon red squirrel might just hold the key to unlocking some deeper insights about reciprocity,
Uh-huh.
cooperation, and evolution of social behavior.
This deep dive has really highlighted the value of going out into the field and observing animals in their natural environment.
Totally.
You can learn so much more than you could in a lab setting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Eason's study gives us a solid foundation,
Okay.
but there are still so many questions waiting to be answered.
Like,
Imagine being a researcher designing the next study on these squirrels.
okay.
What would you focus on?
Hmm.
What kind of experiment would you design?
That's a great question for our listeners to ponder.
Right.
What mysteries
Yeah.
would they try to unravel? Yeah, it's
Uh.
like we're handing them the research torch and saying, okay, your turn.
Yeah.
What intrigues you about these squirrels?
Exactly. What mysteries are they itching to solve?
I think this deep dive has shown just how much we can learn from a creature as seemingly ordinary as a squirrel.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a good reminder that the world is full of surprises, even in our own backyards.
Absolutely. We've uncovered so much about their alarm calls, this fascinating ability to switch between solitary and social living.
Right.
And it all ties back to this bigger question of how and why animals communicate the way they do.
Yeah, we've talked about predator deterrence,
Right.
warning others,
Uh-huh.
even the possibility of these temporary alliances forming because of shared resources.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what those squirrels are really saying to each other out there in the rainforest.
It does make you wonder. I think one of the most important takeaways from all of this is that animal communication is rarely simple. It's often multi-layered with a mix of motivations and meanings, and the more we learn,
Yeah.
the more we realize just how complex and nuanced these interactions really are.
It's a reminder that we still have so much to discover about the natural world and the creatures we share it with.
Totally.
Who knows what other secrets these squirrels and other animals are hiding?
That's the beauty of science, isn't it? It's all about constantly questioning, observing, and refining our understanding.
Right.
And with each new study, we get a little bit closer to unraveling the mysteries of the natural world.
Well said. And to our listener, we hope this deep dive into the world of the southern Amazon red squirrel has sparked your curiosity and given you plenty to think about.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll even be inspired to go out and do some squirrel watching of your own.
Just remember to listen carefully. You never know what secrets you might uncover.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep that sense of wonder alive